welcome to the weekly current affairs class. Today we will be discussing the topics from security as well as society. The first topic that we will be discussing is population growth. You must have read the article regarding the population stabilization. Okay, it was in context of the recent statistics published by the UN, which stated that the world population has touched as high as 8 billion number on basically last Tuesday. And the significant thing here was that India was the largest contributor to the milestone, adding 177 million people of the last billion people born in the world. It means 177 million people out of the last 1 billion people, they came from India. Okay, it seems as a worrying prospect because of the very high population numbers that are presented here. But the UN also stated that India's population growth appeared to be stabilizing. In this context, how the population of India is stabilizing, you can refer to our previous classes also on population demographic dividend, where the things have been discussed in detail. The topic, the focus that we will be creating here today is that in the context of the recent statistics, okay, published by National Family Health Survey 5, what are the changes that are required to be done in the population policy of India? Okay, that is our main focus here. So moving forward, first of all, the task at hand that you have to perform is, I have already discussed in one of my previous classes regarding the India's national population policy 2000. You must know, I hope so, you must have studied this thing in your classes also. You must know what are the objectives of this policy, as well as some of the specific targets that were basically kept in the context of this policy. That thing can be asked with respect to your prelims exams also, and the main direct question can also be asked with respect to India's national population policy 2000 also. So that is the task that you have to perform. Okay, you can watch one of my previous videos. So first, now, why we need a shift of focus in the national population policy? See, generally observing, we can already see that India's population policy was made in 2000, and this is year 2022, and it is also coming to an end. We are just about to start within a month or so the year 2023. So we are already 22 years basically ahead of this policy. So we need a change in the India's population policy with respect to the ground realities that are present there, with respect to the patterns that are emerging in the demographic of India. So in context of that, what are the changes, or what are the ground realities, or what are the patterns that we are seeing with respect to the demographics of India? First of all, again, this has already been discussed with respect to the total fertility rate. See, National Family Health Survey 5, it has already stated that India's overall fertility rate is below the replacement level. Okay, our replacement level is TFR is 2.1, and India has already achieved the level that is 2.0. Okay, it means that our population is decreasing. The number of replacement levels are going down. Okay, so that is a significant thing. Earlier, see, the context here, or the focus here, was population control. In context of India's national population policy 2000, the focus was on population control. But keeping with the ground realities, keeping with the recent statistics that are published here, that focus needs to change. Okay, that focus should be on reaping the demographic dividend, because we have not so much of the window left to utilize the basically working age population there. It needs to be absorbed. Next ground reality that, or the pattern that India needs to basically recognize, is the rise in the aging population. As per the Ministry of Statistics in 2018, the number of citizens, okay, the number of citizens over the age of 60 jumped 35.5%. okay, there is a 35% rise, that is from 7.5 crores to almost above 10 crores, or that is close to 10.5 crores in 2011. And when the recent 2021 census will be updated, we will again see a jump in this number. So what we are seeing is, we are seeing a rise in the aging population. Again, repeating this last point, our here focus was the population control. But here we see that the rise of aging population, there is a difference between when there are more number of individuals that are coming in the working age population, and there is a difference when the basically there is an increase in the number of individuals who are above 60. So what will happen with that? It will basically result in India will have to spend more on its health expenditure, in its health infrastructure, geriatric care. It will have to look out for those things. Otherwise, basically further these people will be less contributing to the economic development. Okay, they will be less contributing to the taxes in comparison to the working age population, because their physical health, their mental health, their skills, their ability to work, all that factors basically hinder their economic participation. So this is another ground reality for us. And another one is a skewed sex ratio. See, what is happening is, as again the focus was on population control, India was advocating policies which focus upon basically lower families or smaller number of individuals in the family. What happened, that was, not only it led to the rise of the nuclear families, but it also creates some another issues. For example, if there are 3 individuals in the family, okay, earlier what used to happen was, basically if a girl child is getting born, okay, the population number was increasing, that individuals were thinking, okay, no problem, that we will keep on that, what we call as a son meta preference. We have already discussed in our previous classes also son meta preference. This was a concept given by Amartya Sen, and it was also recognized by the Economic Survey 2018. okay, son meta preference, that we will keep on trying till we get a male child. So but what is happening is that individuals, they have to adhere to the smaller family norms also. So in context of that, they are going for female feticide. They are only basically the child is getting born when they are sure that basically the child that will be born is a male child. So what is happening in context of that is, it is resulting in a skewed sex ratio. So that is another ground reality that we basically needs to consider in this context. Again, I will repeat, in the emerging patterns of reduced total fertility rates, reduced basically rise in the aging population and reduction in the working age population, and basically the pattern of the skewed sex ratio, where there is a high preference for male children, which has impacted the child sex ratio, we need to adopt some very significant changes in the population policy. And what are those changes? What are those changes? First of all, there is a need to change the discourse of the population policy. We need to change the discourse of population policy. It means we need to change the focus, we need to change the basic idea behind the population policy. That should be shift from population control to ensure that demographic dividend is reaped. We need to ensure that, see, our average age currently is 28 or 29. okay, some statistics go for 28, some go for 29, but this is a approximate average age. So we will basically, as we have already seen, as the number of aging individuals are increasing, this average age will only increase in the future period. It will not decrease to 25, 24, 23. So we need to ensure that sorry, the individuals, basically our working age population from 15 to 64, it needs to be absorbed in employment. Okay, they should get good skills, good health, good education, they should get good standard of living. Okay, because this is the age group on which our future economic growth will depend. So we need to ensure that we need to shift the focus, that our demographic dividend is reaped and it in any case does not turn into demographic liability. It does not turn into demographic liability. The question can be asked in your mains exams also, that how India can prevent its demographic dividend from turning into a demographic liability. So that is also a task at home for you. You need to find the answer to it, that how the demographic dividend can turn into a demographic liability and how India can prevent it. Okay, the next change that we need to is, as we have already discussed, we need to manage the aging population, as its share is projected to increase from 8% to nearly 20% by 2050. So there is almost, we see the rise in the absolute numbers, because we are 1.5 billion population. So this rise here in the absolute numbers will be very much high. So we need to ensure that there is a proper mechanism in place for a geriatric care, proper health infrastructure for the elderly population, proper courses, proper hospitals, doctors, health personnel, proper social security policies that are in place to take care of the elderly population. And the last change that we need to ensure is, see, the new population policy should take into account the variations in the demographic composition of the states and the control of unwanted migration. See, again here, if you want to get a broader context that how regional variation is there in the population demographic numbers of India, you can watch one of my previous videos where we have discussed this in detail, where we have talked about two Indias. Okay, one whose numbers are close to the developed country, and one where states are close to the developing country. The states which are more economically prosperous like Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Punjab, their demographic numbers are more close to the developed countries of the world, and the states which are less economically prosperous like Bihar, UP, Chhattisgarh, their numbers are more close to the less developing countries. So there is a variation between the demographic statistics in the India itself. So we need to incorporate, we need to recognize this variation, we need to take steps. There cannot be a uniform approach to tackle these issues. Okay, there cannot be a uniform approach. We need to tailor the policy formulations as per the specific states, keeping in basically mind the what we say, the statistics of that particular region. What are the statistics of Punjab, what are the statistics of Kerala, what are the statistics of Tamil Nadu. We need to go for a tailor specific policy for that particular state only. So this is our first topic where we discussed the why the change is needed. We looked at some statistics. Okay, then we discussed what are the changes that are required in a population policy, and I gave you a question also with respect to that. You have to look at home, that how demographic dividend can turn into a demographic liability for India, and what are the things that basically government can do to ensure that this demographic dividend does not turn into a demographic liability. Moving forward, next issue that we will be discussing is terror financing. We already know that terrorism is a threat. Terrorism is a threat to the unity and integrity of the country. Okay, and how it is being perpetuated is obviously through the financing mechanism, their recruitment, their terrorist operations, their the basically use of the technology, the use of the weapons, that all that is done by the terrorist groups, it is obviously done through financing. So what is financing? It is a crucial aspect of terrorism, as it is essential for recruitment, it is essential for planning, and it is essential for executing their vicious activities. So the question can be asked with respect to mains exams here also, that what are the various type of terrorist financing mechanisms that are used by the terrorist groups. We will be discussing a few here. First of all is the narco finance. Narco finance means the drug trade. See, drugs are the major source for terrorist financing. For example, Afghanistan in this context has emerged as a hub for a global production of opium. You already know with respect to golden triangle and golden crescent, you already know about it. So that is a mechanism from where the drug infiltrates within our country. Okay, that revenue made from its sale or made from the operations of the drug trade are used for financing the terrorist groups that again hamper the unity and integrity or the internal security of the country. Next is the counterfeiting. Okay, counterfeiting here means basically use of illegal currencies. Counterfeiting of Indian currency not only funds terrorism, but it is also used by Pakistan to destabilize the Indian economy, the basically penetration of the counterfeiting currency in our economy. Okay, so that basically if economy will be destabilized, it will create social chaos. As the social chaos will grow, basically it will also create political instability, and overall it will hamper the economic prospect of India, because it will reduce the investments, it will reduce the basically India as a major source of investments. Next is a state sponsorship mechanism also. Pakistan, for example, has employed its intelligence agency to directly fund terrorist groups in India. State sponsorship is when some country or when some government basically directly funds the terrorist groups or insurgent groups against the another country. Very easy here. What are the various mechanisms? Narco finance, then there is a use of counterfeiting currency, then there is a state sponsored terrorism. Just give me a second. Next, there is extortion and taxation. Okay, this is especially relevant in the context of northeast and Maoist affected areas. It includes extortion from industries and levying taxes on people. For example, that was very pronounced in the left wing extremist areas, that whatever industries operating here, they had to give some kind of extortion money to keep their operations safe to the Maoist groups, and with that money they used to fund their operations. Another 2 or 3 specific mechanism of terror financing can also be listed here. For example, religious organizations are there, they are also sometimes linked with the terrorist financing. Then charities are also there. In the name of charities, basically charities are a front, and at the back end they are used for financing the terrorist groups. So what kind of impact these kind of things create? First of all, obviously we will go for the dimensional approach here, that is the economic impact. So it creates dislocation. First of all, dislocation of the economic activities, causing obstruction to its development and progress levels. Why dislocation? Obviously we know that as the internal security of any state or country will be hampered, there will be problems with respect to rule of law, there will be problems with respect to safety. The individuals or the business groups will be very insecure about their investments and they will move to some safer or the stabilized space. So that is the issue. Then countries like India will have to spend higher on their defense and police. It is again the distortion of our resources, because these resources can otherwise be used for development, these can be used for social security, these funds can be used for infrastructure development, now which are spent upon the defense and the police mechanisms. Then obviously we have already discussed that it will create a decline in the investments, because as the insecure or the instability in the place or in the region will grow, the investments will move away to some secure place. Moving forward, okay, another impact is a social impact, because how it will create disintegration of society, as many groups will not be integrated in the national framework unless and until all the groups are working for the development of the nation, they are consolidated in the national framework. The inclusive development cannot take place, the social capital cannot build. So in this context, Maoists, for example, or Northeast insurgent groups are the examples here, where these groups are not integrated in the national framework, and we see the eastern region of India lagging in development, and to some context we can also categorize this to the northeastern parts as well. Next is the political impact. Political impact will be most of important is the non-engagement of youth in politics, because as the rule of law, as the law and security problems will rise in a particular region, it will drive the youth away from the engagement in the political scenario. This is very evident in case of specifically J&K. And further, the credibility of elected representatives is also questioned, because people do not participate in the political elections. Here you have example for of Srinagar in the 2017 by-polls. The voting that happened, basically the votes polled were just 7.14%. okay, 7, for example, from 100 people, only 7 to 8 individuals voted in that particular elections. Okay, in such a scenario, winner cannot claim to be the true representative of the population of his constituency. Okay, that basically the major impact here is obviously the driving away of people from political participation. Okay, and that is not a good thing for our democracy. So what are the major impacts of these kind of activities? That there is a economic dimension to it. Okay, then there is a social dimension with context of social capital, and then there is a political impact with respect to the political participation. Moving forward, so what has government done to, or what has been the government's response to stop the terrorist financing? What has been the government's response? Various kind of policy measures have been taken. First of all, you have is the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Okay, it seeks to prevent and control money laundering, confiscate and seize property obtained from laundered money, from any, that is we can say, illegal activity that you have. Then India is also a member of the Financial Action Task Force, okay, which relates to the which basically works in a relation to the combating of financing of terrorism, money laundering, okay, these kind of things. And specifically because Pakistan was indulgent in these kind of activities, it was basically in the grey list of FATF. Then Enforcement Directorate is there, okay, which specifically again deals with the offences of money laundering. And most important government response has been the demonetization, to weed out the black money, to weed out the counterfeit money that was prevalent in the Indian economy. Important measures which created conditions for combating finance of the terrorism. And at last you have the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act 1967. Any individual who indulges in the terrorist activity or threatens the unity and integrity or sovereignty of India, okay, his property or her property will be seized, okay, whether that was obtained from legitimate or illegitimate sources. So this is the government response again in nutshell. Government has enacted Prevention of Money Laundering Act. It is a member of the FATF. Government has enacted, then you have an Enforcement Directorate, then you have a demonetization recently, and very early in its stage India also enacted Unlawful Activities Act 1967. So these are the topics basically which were there in news with respect to security and society. The question with respect to mains will be shared in the description below. So we will meet next week. Thank you very much.